Welcome, Alex, to Metaladium Pages. It's a real pleasure to talk with you and obviously taking your time for chat with us today. So we are starting by asking, how are you? How are the band during the last years, etc.?
Well, I'm very good. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me again. And yeah, the band is healthy and very excited. Finally, the new album is out, and we still feel the energy we got in Latin America with meeting all the fans again. It was incredible. So we are pretty energized.
Okay, amazing. So talking about from this new album, how has the process of compositions and recording songs for this new album been different compared to the previous one, which was released obviously during the pandemic?
Yeah, it was 3 years ago. Yeah, well, the process was is the same, you know. It's between the Eight Mountain, Glory for Salvation, and Challenge the Wind. The process was around the same. All the drums were recorded in Germany from Sebastian Leverman, and all the vocals and choirs and special guests, the solo players, I recorded myself in Italy with Giacomo, and the rest of the guys they recorded themselves in their home studios, and I gathered all the pieces together, and so there was a lot of file exchanging, a lot, especially between Robbie and myself. And the composition process always starts with guitars, so I want to make sure that the guitars are first in line, so the guitar riffs and guitar parts that Robbie does are exceptional, and so that's the first step I like to do. So to make sure the album is has enough energy coming from guitar speakers.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. And for this aspect of talking about the pandemic, so what lessons did you learn during the pandemic? And what is your outlook on the post-pandemic scene? Do you feel things have gone back to the normal now?
Well, right now the world is everything but normal. There's nothing normal going on really. So I must say that we were on tour and we had to postpone the last 5 shows, which were the very important ones. Was Milan, was Paris, Munich. So it was a bit disappointing, you know, to have to fly home from Zagreb. Actually, we were there for the last show we did, and my personal plan was after the tour was going home, back home, and start composing. And this is what I did. So as far as the pandemic, it didn't change my plans because that was the period I was supposed to stay home and work. So this is what I did. And I didn't allow myself to feel a victim of nobody and nothing. So I just kept working and, you know, and that's it. Anyway, with the guys, I'm living in London. Robbie lives in Italy. Also, the other guys lives in Italy. So we always have this exchange of files, and you know, we know each other so well. It's like being in person. So the entire process of composition was more or less the same
Okay,
compared to
awesome.
any other period. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So, one month ago, you came to Latin America for a specific dates here. So how was your expectations for in that tour at the beginning? And now, which songs for which country at that time was the most enthusiastic at the time that Rhapsody played the songs?
Oh well, it was a long time we didn't come to Latin America, and the expectation were very high. I mean, we we missed that so much, all the fans in Latin America, and finally we could do it. We could come, and it was a short tour, but we want to come back as soon as possible. We want to cover more country. We want to play newer songs. So you know, every country was special. Chile was fantastic, it was incredible, for example, and it was basically sold out, and the people were incredible. But I must say, in Latin America, in every country where we go, the fans are really really incredible, very friendly, and we step on stage with the same energy. We step on stage on every stage in the world, but being there is so special. Every time is so special.
Okay, okay, okay. So now talking about again from this new album, each album's obviously for each musician, for each band, each album is special in many way in different ways. So what does this new album mean for Rhapsody of Fire's career? Do you feel it's your best effort to date?
Well, I don't reason in this way, and I'm not going to say the last album is the best. For me, as a composer, as a producer, for sure this album marks a very important step. And the main difference is that I wanted to include only fast songs and do no ballads or no intro. And this was not really planned, but I was ready for that. And so it's uh, it's relevant to say that it's a very fast paced album, and this is the third part of the saga, but it's not the last one. There will be a fourth and maybe a fifth album to cover the complete story. So we are already working a bit, thinking what to do next, and for sure we want to do raise the bar every time, and I have to say that we work on the music with the same positive energy we always work since the very beginning. But a very important element is the mix, of course, and the mix we have, it makes the music powerful, full of energy and very defined. Definitions are very important. You can hear every instrument, everything, and this is really what makes the album, available, easy to listen. Despite it's very full of information.
Oh, okay. Amazing, amazing. So Rhapsody of Fire pioneer a new form to do epic metal, new classical metal. So a lot of labels put at that time. I remember very well. And has been imitated by many bands around the world, but no one have managed to sound like your early albums. So how do you stay inspired to create songs that fit your style? And how do you deal with the possibility to becoming repetitive and not sounding as fresh as before?
Yeah, this is really important to. That's why we don't release an album every year. That would be impossible, and we would burn ourselves out. So at least every 2 or 3 years, we want to keep the time, take the time to really work on songs, and working with Robbie De Micheli, which he has a nice approach to the guitar that I liked a lot, and he brings some modernity into that, despite his guitar riffs are very powerful, power metal oriented. But there are many elements we like to work with to keep fresh and to keep modern. Of course, the mix is a big help on that, because it really changed the approach that we could compose the best music in the world, but it's the mix that makes it really the 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 band sounds the way we want to do, the way we want to sound. And it's work so you don't have only to compose the music. You always have to take care that you bring something new and you don't repeat yourself, and this is part of the game, of course. I think this is a for every band, it occurs that artistically you have to bring something new every time.
Okay, okay. And with this aspect, what has been the most important moment in Rhapsody of Fire's history for you?
Well, many moments, but I think the peak was working with Christopher Lee, of course,
Mhm.
having him narrating all the parts, and the excitement he was into. He proposed himself to sing. It was not our idea. It was his idea to sing. So he proposed us to. He asked if we have a song that he could perform together with us. So that was a very good sign that he was really involved and he understood. that behind the music we do, there is passion, there is love for what we do, and there is deepness, you know. So for sure, Christopher Lee was the peak, one of the most important and, you know, great moments in our career.
Mm, awesome. I remember when Legendary Titles came out in the world, and a lot of pain. That for me, that's the way that started a power metal career. After that, a lot of power metals bands appears in the world. So for you, and I think you put Italian scene in a big spot before Lacuna Coil, before a lot other bands that has appeared later, or before we have extreme metal in Italy from the 80s. But you are for me, you are one of the peak or one of the stones in Italy at that time. So for you, how has the Italian metal scene changed since Rhapsody of Fires emerged? How do you feel about being considered a benchmark for Italian metal?
Well, it's you have to think we started in, you know, being aware we were Italians and we wanted to create an heavy metal band and to compete with heavy metal bands around the world, and everybody thought we were absolutely out of mind. But we knew we had some, you know, some really new elements that we could have offered, and basically what we wanted is just to make music that we would have been happy to buy, happy to walk to a shop and see, ah, look at this cover. It's so epic. Listen to the music. Wow, I want to buy it. So this was the first approach. It was not about being famous or, you know, or make a living out of music. The really first desire was to make something that was not yet available in the music, in the heavy metal music, you know. So that I think was the key of success that we had, and we always living, you know, geographically living in Trieste, Italy, which is totally far away from the center of Italy or from Milan or from the areas where most bands are normally. We are, you know, on the border with Slovenia on the very east side of Italy, and we were always never in touch with any band, anybody. I mean, at the time, Fabio was the only bridge bringing information about other bands we knew nothing about. Luca Turilli and myself, we were just writing music, and we didn't want to know about anything else than just our music and our, you know, pave our own path, you know. So even then, even after, you know, I know some bands like Lacuna Coil, of course, and some other bands, and but I think that what we do musically is so different that I mean, good luck if you wanna, you know, do the same, because we don't compose heavy metal songs. We compose songs in a classical music way. You know what I mean? We never compose an heavy metal song and then we thought, oh, let's add some strings on top. We were composing the song already, including the classical elements. So it was something new for this reason, you know.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Thank you very much for the explanation. I remember that you in one interview say that you use Antiva music to use to merge with the
Yeah,
classical
yeah, yeah,
because
of course.
class.
Baroque, Rinascimental music, yes, music antica, of course, and classical music, and then later on film music. Yeah, always wanted to bring these elements in the music. We never felt so complete just playing heavy metal. We wanted something more. We wanted to reach emotions, and as I said, when we worked with Christopher Lee, was coming out from the third part of the Lord of the Rings, and there was all this wave of, you know, the watching the movies and
Yeah.
listening to soundtracks. We were completely taken by this world of fantasy elements, and in the beginning we were more like we still, yeah, in the past we were watching Conan the Barbarian, the movie, and some other things. But when we reached the Christopher Lee and we worked with him, it was really the explosion of our orchestrality and you know, and the sagas and all the characters.
Okay. Well, that is true for me. When I remember one album in particular for me when I always listen to Rhapsody, The Power of Dragon Flame. When I start since the beginning to end, I always when I hear the music, I always been in some riding a dragon, flying and something like that. I'm always that. So
Yeah, this is good because we always work composing songs. We work with imagining landscape and images of movies or images of natural landscapes. And when we compose this, it's fantastic that the fans can really themselves get some images when they listen to music. This is really one of the most important things that we want. We wish the listener will experience.
yeah, well, for me it is the same. So now talking about the kind of aspects. So how easy or difficult is it to have? Well, as you mentioned, you when you present Legendary Tales, you did a breakup at that time. A lot of people follow your influence, but now and sometimes it's how easy or difficult is to have a band in this digital age. Where you can reach everyone around the world through the digital platforms, but hasn't necessarily translate into the profits for musicians in general. Or you also have to compete with 1,000 of bands that emerge every day on social media.
Well, the competition is strong even before even compared to 10 or 20 years. Now the competition is much stronger because physical sales are so minimal, and so everybody the target of every band is to go on tour and tour all the time. And on one side, the accessibility that the fans have using social media is positive because we saw that we are gaining a lot of fans and more fans comes to our show. On this hand is good. Of course, physical sales are so so now inconsistent, I must say. So this is really difficult for a band to you know to to do the right investments, or it's always more difficult, but we try our best to keep the artistic level as high as possible, and we still have a lot of things to do and that we want to do, and we have many plans for the future. And until this is possible to do, we always have to thank our fans that are so supportive.
Okay, okay. And what is aspect of the technology? As you can see, one of the topic right now in the world is the artificial intelligence, and that is creating arts, music, and etc. details. So what role do you think artificial intelligence will play in the music in the future? Can you imagine using it or to create album covers, or perhaps to help you in some songs to create music?
No, no, for me, not for me, for sure, not for me. And already the word artificial, it doesn't vibe in a correct way for me. And it- it's really on one side it's really disgusting. On the other, artificial intelligence could be used for many things because it is really useful for of many things, but for arts that's too it flatten everything. So it's true, you can create cover artworks, you can create I don't know if you can create music or not. I'm not really into that really, but it's not something that is for Rhapsody of Fire or for me, maybe some technology can help in the studio for some plugins or something, and for sure there are some areas that are it can be useful, but not really to create art. I don't believe that art must come from your hands, from your heart, not from a computer.
Okay, okay, okay. Thanks for this answer. And we're really close to ending this interview, Alex. As you can see now, the heavy metal world changed a lot of things in the world, and according to the social media, the heavy metal in general, whatever metal play the band, is no more shocking the society right now,
Yeah.
because we have a lot of jokes about the metal, etc., etc. Some people from the 80s, from the 90s, thinks that the metal in some way lose this aspect of some rebellion or to be against something in the world. And now it's more accepted. So other people say that it's good for the metal to be accepted for a lot of people now. So for you, which is your point of view? The metal lose this kind of essence to be rebellion, something shocking, or perhaps, or you agree with that the metal will more accepted now?
Well, it's a complex matter, I think, because I really enjoy the 80s and the 90s because you could watch MTV and you could see any kind of band from rock to heavy metal, and the scene was really flourishing, really full of energy, and this is okay. And I personally, I never started playing an instrument because I want to be a rebel. I mean, it was just being a musician because I love music. So it always depends on the kind of style you want to do. And for sure, I have no sympathy for people that's wearing metal shirts and they have no clue who's the band they are wearing. So this is a joke. But on the other hand, if more people uh, can be attracted to heavy metal, it's a good thing. My nephew is just turned 13. He's playing drums. Is the son of my brother, and he's super talented, and he can play anything from heavy metal to death metal to pop and rock. He's super open-minded. He's just a kid. But I see that in new generation, if you have a good family and you have good inputs, you can become a listener or a musician and be very open-minded. So I hope this is the future, for people be open-minded and not have to hide if you listen to heavy metal and at the same time you like some rock artist or pop artist. So good music is good music.
Okay, okay. And with this aspect that you said about your nephew, that's normally now that the new generation have a lot of technical people in this world because there's a lot of ways to learn drums, guitar, keyboards, a
Yeah,
lot. There's not like the 80s or 90s. I remember when I tried to learn drums on the 90s, I wait for the books, I wait to contact someone to teach me heavy metal or to teach
yes,
metal. That's very
yes.
difficult at that time. But now it's very easy. But with this aspect, some artists like the very famous said that the music are too saturated, especially in the music in metal music industry. As you can see, each weekend we have a lot of releases. That's impossible. Rhapsody has a title on the biggest wall of the great bands of the power metal, but new bands will not have that opportunity for the future, and they have to work and do music, or perhaps they have other things to still contribute with the music. And for this aspect, for you, what is your opinion about now about these oversaturated people and music and musicians that play so more technical that they forget this sense of the emotions of the music?
Mm. Well, yeah, the market is saturated completely, but I think you cannot take the rights for a person that wants to play music. So I think that the end is not only about the talent. I know many musicians which are very talented, but they don't want to leave their job, or they don't want to leave their town or their girlfriends, or they have a family. So talent doesn't really say anything really, because there are many different aspects that you have to take care if you really want to do something in music. And yeah, it's a weird period. I feel lucky because we established the name of the band since many years. But I understand what is really annoying for me is to see all. I mean, the majority of the heavy metal bands, they have the same image. They have makeup, they have blood falling off their chins, and they want to look like they are, and evil, and they get scary, and this is so ridiculous for me. And if you notice, yes, we have a look, but we are like, if you look at Halloween or Blind Guardian or Rhapsody of Fire or so many other bands, or like Europe, for example, but we have a normal look. We are not going around with makeups and blood coming spilling over. this is very annoying for me. That nowadays to 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 come through the screen, you have to be the most horrifying, have the most horrifying image, or fuck that. This is really too much for me. I can see every new band is like, "Bleh," like this, "Bleh," with this attitude. I don't, I hate it. Really.
Yeah, yeah. I understood very well because the next and the last question for this is, as you can see, well, now we as a reviewers, as a interviewers, and we are working for website, you will usually discover some jewels there, black, heavy, power, etc. A lot of styles, bands that will probably more innovative or perhaps more ambitious in their sound, but according to the mainstream level, as you mentioned it, they focus more on the faces, on the blood. The mainstream or the publicity are more focused on these kinds of aspects and
Yeah, yeah.
forget the musical aspect. So
Yeah,
for you, with the,
they want the image to be transgressive, so they
yes,
pass it.
yes. And what's your point of view in completely about this? Because the publicity of the mainstream music, because as you can see, I know I can remember Sleep Token, a band that with a mask, with a lot of publicity in all medias, Metal Hammer, the big medias around the world, they have a lot of publicity. But when you hear the music, it's not interesting, just the faces on etc. etc. So for you, it's good or it's bad that the publicity now focus more on the imagine than in the creativity of the music.
Well, it's not my point to judge any bands for what they do, but of course, this is what I was saying before. If also the magazine they want to portray and diffuse this image, uh, let's call it this dirty, violent image, which is okay because this comes from the 80s, from the 90s, where those bands were really, they were like this. They were living in this way. But nowadays, maybe they use this makeup just to appear more appealing to the market. And that's something we would never do. Of course, you can use some makeup when you do a video clip, it's okay, but we don't want to fake it. I think that most of the bands, like 90% of the bands with this makeup, with the dirty faces, is just because they want to be portrayed by this magazine and to look ugly and evil, and they want to look like they are powerful. And I think this is so ridiculous, really.
Okay. Well, Alex, the sad times arrive at this interview. Thanks a lot for your time. As I mentioned, you are one of the biggest stones with your band and in power metal in music in general. So for me, it's a great pleasure for the second time taking the time to do this interview for you. You are one of my big. I am one of the biggest fans since the beginning to now. Always, I saw you on Colombia the last time with the Metalerium website. We saw you. Great show, by the
Ah,
way. So perhaps do you want to
thank you.
add something to your Latin American fans and obviously Metalerium followers?
Well, yeah, we are really looking forward to come back in Latin America, and we will do everything is in our power to be back and to play more country. And we really enjoyed. It was very hard physically because we had flights every day, but it was a pure joy to be there again once again, and we looking forward to repeat it as soon as we can. So thank you very much for the support.